Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Just Your Average Tees YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be doing a recap of Week 1 in the Fantasy Football League of the Illinois Idiots. We have a interview as well with the last year's champion, and we also are going to be going over Week 2 of the Fantasy Football Week and the trades and other transactions that happened in between those time frames. So there's really only one big trade that affected Week 1, and that would be the trade of Deshaun of the Dead, formerly of Team Math, and now Machine Gun Kelsey, formerly of I'm Feeling Myself. So Deshaun of the Dead traded away Joe Mixon, Travis Kelsey, and Mike Evans, and in return received Adam Thielen, Ezekiel Elliott, and Austin Hooper, which changed up a little bit of the formats, but not a whole lot in the end. So now on to Week 1 of my game with the Rain City Bitch Pigeons. He changed his name from the Dog Pound to now it's 2 in the Pink, 1 in the Stink. You know how it goes with these people sometimes. So I lost 110.6 to 110.2. Pink got 110.6. So his quarterbacks beat me, and I remember last week all I said was kickers won't win you a game, they won't lose you a game. In my opinion, it was a combination of his kicker kicking 16 points with Steven Gostowski versus my Jameis Winston with a 7.1 and then Sony Michel of 1.4. Other than that, the rest of my team did wonderful. I have since dropped Jameis Winston. Also, can we just take a moment in silence and notice of what I had on my bench, and that was Sammy Watkins and Marquise Brown. Yeah, that one hurts. Overall, I mean, I can't be too upset. I know kind of where I needed to be. Uh, I remember I texted a little too early in a group chat we have that, oh, Seth is about to go 0-1. Can't stop me now, and, well, I spoke a little too soon. But you know what? It's week 1. Plenty of season still to play. Overall, Pink of the Stink gets the win. Onward to game number 2, and this one was also a really close game. We had the Green Bay Pack Attack versus Deshaun of the Dead, formerly of Team Math, and the Green Bay Pack Attack won 145 to 142.3. He had some big point games from Patrick Mahomes with 27.3, Dalvin Cook with 26, Evan Ingram who had 28.6. I don't think he thought about that was going to happen. But even then, Deshaun of the Dead didn't put up a bad game either. He had some really great players there. It was a close battle. These guys are going to be putting up a lot of points this year, and it's going to be incredible to kind of watch them go. But in the end, Green Bay Pack Attack gets the win. On to game number 3 of Team the Old Goat versus the Effingham Titans. This game was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, and I feel like if Tyreek Hill hadn't gone out and only left the Old Goat with 4.1, he would have won. But in the end, like I said, Effingham Titans comes out with the win, 125.4 to 114. Le'Veon Bell looks like he hasn't missed a step at all, but even then, the Old Goat had a great performance. Tevin Coleman got hurt early, unfortunately. Tyreek Hill got hurt early, unfortunately. His team did not do bad at all. Now, he did make a trade that we'll cover in the Week 2 recap, the Week 2 preview coming up, that may change up a few things for him. And the Effingham Titans also made a trade that was a big blockbuster trade. Next, and probably the game that wasn't really all that close, we had Philip Rivers' Child Army versus Slav on my Cobb. Slav on my Cobb won 120 to 86.7. Just an unfortunate week for Philip Rivers' Child Army. Devontae Freeman did not put up as many points as thought. Mike Williams didn't really put up a whole lot, and then his kicker got him nothing. He got injured early. And then Slav Cobb had a big game from Dak Prescott, Derrick Henry, Marlon Mack had also some pretty big games. Kyle Rudolph didn't get him anything, but he was able to somehow pull off the win with getting 3 straight zeros just based off his QB and his 2 running backs. Next, we had Machine Gun Kelsey and First and Ben going up against each other in a very high-scoring offense. Machine Gun Kelsey won 160.4 to 136.5. Had amazing days from Austin Eckler, who almost scored 40 points. Philip Rivers, who had 24 almost. The always reliable DeAndre Hopkins, who had almost 32. And Mark Ingram, who had 22. But even then, First and Ben had a pretty good time himself. Carson Wentz with 25 points. Michael Thomas, reliable with 22. Overall, his team performed very well, minus Stephon Diggs, but I mean, it's just one of those days. You can't really worry too much about it. Harrison Butker had 17 points. Again, this is just the fantasy gods laughing at me because I said kickers don't matter. I'm taking this back. Every position matters. And for the final game of week 1, we had I'm a Lumberjackson versus is Team Gerhardt. I'm a Lumberjackson won 150 to 120.2. It was 150.9 technically. He was led obviously by Christian McCaffrey, who had 43 points. That's insane. I keep forgetting how good he is. Drew Brees with almost 21. He had Delaney Walker with 22. I mean, just not really a bad performance anywhere besides Adam Vinatieri there at all, besides who also cost his team the win as well. No massive changes for the Toledo Woodpeckers, except we have a new owner and a new team name, which I kind of gave away. It's no longer Team Gerhardt. It is now the Toledo Woodpeckers. We have a new owner, and I will kind of go over more of that whenever we get to the Week 2 preview. But overall, that is the end of the Week 1 preview. I will show you the standings here real quick. So over in the East, we had Green Bay Pack Attack and Slava Mykob. They got wins, so they're on top tied with each other. Green Bay Pack Attack has the advantage due to the points. And then coming up behind, we have Deshaun the Dead, Toledo Woodpeckers, Team the Old Goat, and the Rain City Bitch Pigeons. They are all one game back. In the West, you have Machine Gun Kelsey, I'm a Lumberjackson, Effingham Titans, and Two in the Pink, One in the Stink, with a tie going on with Machine Gun Kelsey, of course, taking the advantage due to him having all those points, with First and Ben and Philip Rivers Child Army coming up behind, one game back. Still, lots of time. It's only week 1. Got to kind of see where everyone's going to go from there. And now I hope you guys are ready for our interview with the now owner of the brand new named Machine Gun Kelsey's. All right, everybody, and welcome back. Before we do the Week 2 preview, we are going to go ahead and start with our first of a series of interviews. He won the championship last year, and it looks like he's poised to make another run this year. I'm going to introduce you now, the GM of Machine Gun Kelsey. Are you there? Okay. So, overall, I mean, you won last year. At what time did you think you were going to win it last year?
I really didn't think I was going to win. Like, there was not a set time that I thought I was going to win until the last week of the championship. Because your team was stacked, and I'm Lumberjackson, always beats me, and with Christian McCaffrey, so I didn't really think that I was going to win.
Okay. And how do you feel about your team this year? I know you kind of made a lot of trades last year to kind of move in to get your position to win. I know a lot of people kind of project you to not do very well, but looking at your team, it looks pretty solid again this year.
Yeah, I think my team is pretty decent, but until Melvin Gordon comes back, because I have Austin Eckler, so.
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty valid point there. I mean, do you think he's going to come back at all, Melvin Gordon, or do you think he's going to sit out the entire year?
I think he's going to come back. They said he's going to come back like between week 6 and 8, but it's up to him and the coach. But I think he'll come back and get some reps.
Okay. Is there a team in this league this year that kind of scares you more than anybody else?
I'm Lumberjackson. His putting up 150 points week 1. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. He's something about his team.
Yeah, getting Christian McCaffrey there to put up 100, the 47 points I think he put up. I mean, that was pretty intense there. And then what are your predictions for your team this year going forward?
Basically, I think I will do decent, probably go whatever 6-0 until Melvin Gordon comes back, and then I'll start losing.
And then, kind of stepping away from fantasy football there, who do you think is going to be in the Super Bowl, and who do you think is going to win it?
The Patriots are going to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, and then I think the Saints will beat the Rams in an AFC Championship. I'm going to have to take the Patriots because they're stacked.
Yeah, I can't believe they got Antonio Brown. I still am really upset about that.
Yeah, me too.
Alrighty, well, hey, thanks for stopping on in, and now let's look forward to the Week 2 recap. Alrighty, everybody, now that we've done our Week 1 review and that we are now looking forward to our Week 2 preview, let's go over some of the transactions that happened in between weeks here. So the first big one here was that Deshaun the Dead had traded Ezekiel Elliott and Josh Gordon for Le'Veon Bell and A.J. Green. At the time, I don't think really anybody saw that one coming. It was the first big trade that happened in a series of other big trades that you'll see coming down the pipeline. Next, we had a trade of Todd Gurley being traded from the Old Goat to I'm a Lumberjackson for Tyrell Williams and Nick Chubb. talking to the old goat, he did that to get more depth, and he felt like Todd Gurley wasn't going to be as effective this year as he was last year. Then we had the Carry-On Johnson trade of the Toledo Woodpeckers, sending Carry-On to the Green Bay Pack Attack for Chris Conley and Kenyon Drake. Once the Toledo Woodpeckers kind of looked at his lineup, he realized he was really heavy at running back and needed to make some moves to get some wide receivers. And then came a trade with the Toledo Woodpeckers sending Alvin Kamara to your Rain City Bitch Pigeons, in which I traded DK Metcalf, Duke Johnson Jr., and T.Y. Hilton. Yes, it seemed like I gave up a lot, but Metcalf was going to be sitting on my bench quite a bit. Duke Johnson was going to be interchanged, and I got Alvin Kamara out of it. And losing T.Y. Hilton sucks, but I still have Sammy Watkins, and I have Odell Beckham Jr. So to get that player for kind of that haul, I'm okay with giving up. In other news for the Bitch Pigeons, I got rid of Jameis Winston because I wanted to throw the turnover pastry factory into the ocean once he kind of hosed me over in week 1, as well as Steven Gostkowski, who I now have more of a reason to curse eternally. And I picked up Matthew Stafford, as well as Jacoby Brissett. Those are now my quarterback situation. But T.Y. Hilton wasn't done being traded there. Not too long after he got traded to the Toledo Woodpeckers, the Woodpeckers traded him for Antonio Brown of the 2 in the Pink, 1 in the Stink. Now, with the whole Antonio Brown allegations going out right now, that's a huge risk for the Woodpeckers and a pretty decent return for 2 in the Pink, 1 in the Stink, who I know was tired of him after he couldn't play week 1, and there was reports that he wouldn't even be able to play week 2, and now with this whole sexual assault rape allegation going on, let's see how it really plays out now for him in there. Next, the Bitch Pigeons traded with Old Goat, Adrian Peterson for Anthony Miller. Then you had another big trade here with 2 in the Pink trading David Johnson to I'm a Lumberjackson for Todd Gurley, which was kind of a big surprise there because I didn't think Lumberjackson would trade him, and I didn't think Pink and the Stink would trade Johnson at all because he kind of held on Johnson so far in this league, even through the bad years that he had with him. But those are the big trades. We had a few waivers and transactions in free agency, but nothing that's really going to move the needle per se, except for maybe me jettisoning Jameis Winston in the sun where he probably belongs and picking up Matthew Stafford, who is a fantasy football god I keep forgetting. Jameis Winston, I will never forgive you for losing week 1 for me. I don't care that Gostkowski got 16 points. I don't care I lost by 0.4. You threw 3 interceptions. You fucked me. So now on to the week 2 matchups. In the first matchup of the week, we have the Rain City Bitch Pigeons versus the Effingham Titans. Effingham Titans are 1-0, where the Bitch Pigeons are 0-1. All in all, this is going to be a insanely close, another nail-biting matchup for me. Back-to-back weeks, I don't like it, and I know I said this last week, but I'm going to say it again. I think I kind of come out with the win here. I think our quarterbacks are going to wash each other out. Stafford's going up against the Chargers, where Ryan's going up against the Eagles. I think Damian Williams will tear up the Oakland defense. James Conner might have good success against Seattle. I'm not quite sure about that. I believe Kamara is still going to be a stud against the Los Angeles Rams, and I believe Ezekiel Elliott will also tear up Washington, so those two will kind of wash out. But this is where I feel like I'm going to take the advantage here. I think Odell Beckham Jr. going up against the Jets defense on a Monday night game. I think Baker's going to do superiorly better than he did last week, and Odell Beckham's going to see a little bit more more action. Keenan Allen facing Detroit, that's going to be a good matchup for him as well. I think he'll score a lot of points as well. Sammy Watkins against Oakland, you saw what he did to the Jaguars defense with Jalen Ramsey covering him. I can't think of anybody on Oakland who's as nearly good as Jalen Ramsey, so he's going to torch him again. But Brandon Cooks is going to have a solid cornerback chasing him all night. He didn't do very good last week with the Panthers, so we'll see how he does this week. Maybe it was just a fluke week or something. I believe Zach Ertz is going to do better against Atlanta than Jared Cook will against the Rams. Our flexes are they're going to be boom or bust. I'm putting Marquise Brown in there. I don't know. I mean, he had the amazing week last week against Miami. He's going up against Arizona this week, so Arizona doesn't really have a whole lot of great defenders there either. Sterling Shepard's going up against Buffalo, so who knows how well they're going to do. Question is, can Eli throw the ball to him? I think he has the edge in defense. I think Minnesota is going to do better against the Packers than the Bears did. I think the Bills' defense will do well against the Giants, even though they are going to have a hard time, I feel, containing Saquon. And then our kickers are just going to kind of null each other out. I feel like Mason Crosby and the Packers' offense are going to get a little bit more offense this week, and I believe Will Lutz is going to do well out there in Los Angeles. But all in all, I believe the Rain City Bitch Pigeons will come out with their first win of the season in this week. Next, we have another, I believe it's going to be a really intense matchup with 2 in the Pink versus the Green Bay Pack Attack. The quarterbacks, I believe, are going to watch each other out. You got Tom Brady going up against Miami, but you have Patrick Mahomes going up against Oakland. I think those two could be very close in point total wise. I think Dalvin Cook will outscore Tariq Cohen. I believe Kerryon Johnson will outscore Todd Gurley. The wide receivers are going to be interesting. I don't know who's going to outscore who when it comes to Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper. That's going to be kind of a close matchup there, as well as Adam Thielen. I believe he gets outscored by T.Y. Hilton, though, but he's going up against a Tennessee defense that I believe is very underrated. You got Jimmy Graham versus Evan Ingram. I don't know. Those are going to be a watch. Jimmy Graham is very hit or miss, as well as Evan Ingram, so who knows about there. Then you have the battle of the Cincinnati wide receivers in the flex position, where you have John Ross III for the Pack Attack going up against Pink of the Stinks Tyler Boyd. The big thing here will be Tyler Boyd, will he be taken back over the number one role? Or are we starting to see the emergence of John Ross and what he should have been whenever he was drafted? Is he finally reaching his potential? Something I don't think that these two thought about whenever they're facing each other, but you got the Texans D facing Jacksonville, and you got Jacksonville D facing Houston. So automatically, I feel like Pack is going to be rooting for Houston just to dominate Jacksonville, but I think Stink is going to be rooting for Jacksonville to dominate Houston. And then their kickers are going to kind of watch each other out again. I feel Justin Tuck is one of the elite kickers in the game. So is Steven Gostkowski. Still fuck you, buddy. No, I'm not salty. I don't want to hear about it. Up next, we have Deshaun of the Dead versus the team The Old Goat. They're having this one's a pretty big blowout. I don't really see it that way. I think, so the Old Goat, like I said, added Adrian Pearson. He was now going to be the starting guy out there in Washington. We'll see how well he does out there. But again, we'll break it down from starting position on down. So you got Deshaun Watson going up against Kyler Murray. I believe Deshaun Watson clearly is much better than Kyler Murray is. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Saquon Barkley is going to outrun Nick Chubb. Le'Veon Bell, I presume, is going to outrun Adrian Pearson, who they're going to, I believe, Goat will put in there instead of Raheem Morstead. It's a toss-up whether Juju Smith-Schuster is going to beat out Julian Edelman. It depends on who Brady is throwing to that day. DJ Moore and Tyrell Williams, kind of interchangeable there, I feel, as well. Austin Hooper versus Mark Andrews. You know, you got the Arizona defense there for Mark Andrews, so he could have another huge day out there. I think Michael Gallup is going to beat Christian Kirk in the flex position. The Bears D going up against Denver and the Patriots D going up against Miami. Be prepared to see some high-scoring defenses in that. Then you got Robbie Gould versus Greg Zerlin. I mean, who knows what's going to happen there. In the end, I do feel like Deshaun of the Dead is going to pull out the win here. But I believe the Old Goat is continuing to make improvements and will make this game a lot closer than it should be on paper. Next, we got Machine Gun Kelsey versus Philip Rivers Child Army. You guys heard Machine Gun Kelsey earlier in the episode on the interview. So you got Philip Rivers versus Jimmy Garoppolo. I believe Philip Rivers will do better than Jimmy Garoppolo will. I also believe that Austin Eckler is going to do better than Devontae Freeman. I think Devontae Freeman will have a better time. The big question here is, will Joe Mixon be healthy? I heard and saw some things that Joe Mixon may not be able to play week 2 against San Francisco. If that is the case, will he move Mark Ingram up, or will he put Aaron Jones in? Who will be the flex if Joe Mixon can't go? Either way, I feel like Chris Carson's is going to outduel them. DeAndre Hopkins is going to just wallop up on Connor Kupp. Mike Evans and Mike Williams, though, that's going to be a tough battle for both of them, I feel. Battling what I believe are the two best tight ends in the league with George Kittle and Travis Kelce goes with each other. I believe Kelce, though, is that much better. Currently, as I said, you got Mark Ingram versus Allen Robinson. I'm just not sold so far on the Bears offense. I know they did a lot of trick stuff last year. I want to see if they can replicate it this year. I believe Mark Ingram right now, as it sits, is better as a flex, especially since he's going up against the Arizona defense. Next, you got the Jets D versus the Chargers D. I'm going to give the edge to the Chargers D there because I don't believe the Jets D is nearly good enough to stop all Cleveland's weapons. As for the Chargers D, you just have to look on stopping Kerryon Johnson and TJ Hawkinson. And then who knows about the kickers? Jake Elliott is playing against Atlanta in a dome. Kicking is going to be a little bit easier for him. Mike Badgley is also in a dome in Detroit, but the issue is, will he be healthy enough? In the end, I have Machine Gun Kelsey taking away a victory in this one and furthering his winning streak ways. Next, you got Slava Macabre versus the first game for the new owner of the Toledo Woodpeckers. This is going to be a close matchup again, I feel. You got Dak Prescott against Washington versus Jared Goff against New Orleans. I think Dak has the advantage in that because Washington isn't as strong as New Orleans is. You got Derrick Henry going up against Indianapolis with Josh Jacobs going up against Kansas City. Derrick Henry's just been dominating here in the past little bit. Josh Jacobs is new, and Kansas City doesn't have the best run defense, I feel. Then you got Marlon Mack going up against Tennessee, and then Duke Johnson Jr. going up against Jacksonville. I believe those two will kind of wash each other out here. Julio Jones versus Alshon Jeffrey. Will the Falcons offense, will it click a little bit better? I don't know what it was last week against Minnesota, but they did not look very sharp at all. And then how's Alshon going to do? Or is the Church of Wentz officially back in service? Then you come to the biggest question mark, I feel, between the two wide receiver matchups here. Jarvis Landry, I feel like, is going to do well against the Jets. But now you got to run into, how is Antonio Brown? Is he going to be able to play against Miami? And if so, how effective is he going to be? At the time of recording, we have Kyle Rudolph going against Hunter Henry. Unfortunately, I believe Hunter Henry is out, so he will have to try and find a new tight end to try and figure out what to do with that situation. Then you got David Montgomery of Chicago, who appears to be the lead man now out there, versus Chris Conley in Jacksonville. How much will the injured in Big Dick Nick hurt Chris Conley? I believe David Montgomery is going to do better than Chris Conley will. You got the Panthers D walking into the turnover factory machine over there in Tampa Bay. And then you got the Saints versus Los Angeles. I think the Saints are a better pick there than the Panthers D are. I know I say Jameis Winston is a turnover factory, but you also have to remember it's a Thursday night game, and those things are just so weird. And then you got Matt Bryant versus Fairbairn there. I mean, they're kickers. I want to know who's probably going to be kicking better. I'm going to guess. They're both kind of in a dome, though. You got Jacksonville, coming into Houston, and then you got Philadelphia coming into Atlanta. So they're both going to have hardly any wind, if there's any wind at all in there, which I don't believe there are unless you count those giant fans. Madden's weird, and you can have 10 miles an hour wind inside a dome, which makes no sense to me. But I think the kickers will eventually wash each other out there. Unfortunately for Woodpeckers, in the end, I do believe Slob on the Cob does get the victory and continues and moves to 2-0. And in what could be possibly the best game of the week is probably the one that's best for last. You got First and Ben going against I'm a Lumberjackson. Starting off with the quarterbacks here, you got Carson Wentz going into Atlanta versus Lamar Jackson going into Arizona. That's going to be really good. I think Lamar Jackson has a little bit of the edge there. Maybe he can replicate his Week 1 magic. You got Christian McCaffrey versus Leonard Fournette. You saw how Kamara did against the Houston D last week. So now with Nick Foles gone, I believe Leonard Fournette's stock has kind of rose up now. If he can stay healthy, he'll be a solid back. You got Christian McCaffrey, one of the top 5 backs in the league. But again, Thursday night game, how effective is he going to be? James White, who seems to get used a lot in that New England offense against the Miami dumpster fire of a defense. Then you got David Johnson going up against Baltimore. I'm giving the edge to James White there. And then you got Michael Thomas of New Orleans going up against Kenny Galladay. Michael Thomas has Drew Brees, in my opinion, one of the best quarterbacks to ever throw the ball, throw him to him. Edge goes to Michael Thomas there. I still think Stephon Diggs will have his handful. I think he'll have Jair Alexander following him all the time out there in the Green Bay-Minnesota matchup. Tyler Lockett is facing Pittsburgh. He'll probably get Joe Hayden then, I guess. And I think Tyler Lockett's got the advantage there. David Njoku versus Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker had a bomb of a week last week and just put up, I think it was like 20 points, 28 points or something like that. David Njoku didn't have as good as a week. I feel like you're about to see the Browns offense just totally wreck up that Jets defense, and the edge here goes to Njoku. Now you got John Brown versus Miles Sanders down here in the flex position. I firmly believe that John Brown is better than Miles Sanders just because it's the Giants' defense. And I just think that the Bills' offense is better than the running back for the Eagles. The defenses, you got the Titans' defense going up against Indianapolis versus the Ravens' defense going up against Arizona. I think the Titans' defense will do better. In even bolder prediction, I feel like the Titans will actually get a win against Indianapolis that hasn't happened in a long time. Just a little side thing in there for you. Then you got the Ravens defense in there against Arizona. Obviously, the Ravens defense is going to kick butt. But, those are going to be very tough, very close matchups on the defense. Harrison Butker and the high-flying Kansas City offense, and then Adam Vinatieri. They're both going to kind of do well against each other. In the end, they have I'm a Lumberjackson winning 120 to 115. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say First and Ben wins. And that's the end of week 2 and all the previews. I want to say in week 1 I did terrible. I went 2-4. I'm going to keep a running tally for all season on how I do. Hopefully this week I do better, and we can kind of go from there. Again, thank you so much for listening to this video. I know it was a long one. I didn't think these videos were going to be as long as they are. But honestly, I'm really enjoying doing them. And if you guys like them, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. And don't ever forget, JAT is where it's at.